What's up, YouTube? It's Richie from Boston. It is the 1st of November in the year 2020. Stand by because I got to mute this other channel. And that is done. So there we go. I got somebody jumping in with us, and he is running late because he's always running late. So there's that. And it happens because I gave him about, 6 minutes notice because that's how I roll. So here we are. What is up? There's a lot of people in the chat for such a small channel. This is my last channel that I'm allowed to do anything on. I posted that video originally here. This one right here, Songbird, the movie trailer that just came out. And then I said, screw it. And I posted it on YouTube and they let it stay up. It got 33,000 views, strangely enough. And then they pulled it today. So it's gone. It is what it is. Okay. New comments are stuck. What is up? S. Michelle Brown. I think I said that right. OG Johnny, what's up? Repent Ye Productions. Hawk Est Bullum. Is that right? I just saw another one. I thought it said, I'm from Boston. Oh, I don't know what that is. I'm from BMF Thomas. All right. Cosmic, what's up? Yeah, don't spread rumors, man. Oh, Richie's having a meeting at his house. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. I won't have a meeting at somebody else's house, but I'm going to do it at mine. Yeah, that'd work out great. There's no reason to have a meeting. This is it right now. There's no reason to meet any place unless it's the last stand. And this ain't the last stand, which is why I'm never here. And I won't be here much longer. I'm trying to get out of here anytime the next day or two. But I got a few things I got to deal with first. So I hate being home. What's up, Coconut Bay? Kim Rhodes said Songbird is crazy. It was crazy, but you can see from where they've got everyone now to where they want us to be, which is what Songbird is showing. That's what they're going to do. Isn't it amazing how suddenly I'll be I don't even know. I'll be either 53 or 54 this month if the creek don't rise and the good Lord's willing. You know what I'm saying? And I don't care either way anyway. But never in my life have I seen such a thing. Suddenly we have Event 201, and then Netflix puts out the movie Pandemic with Bill Gates in it again. Remember that? Because that happened. And then suddenly we have this disease, this virus, this plague that shut down the entire world. And yet nobody knows anybody that's sick or anyone that died. I'll tell you what, I talked to a veteran nurse yesterday from Mass General in Boston. And she said the only deaths they're having are people that are suing the hospital or fighting the hospital because they labeled the people as dying from COVID when they died from heart attacks or whatever else. How yeah, I don't want to swear, but Mimi Praise is listening, so I'm not gonna. But listen, how effed up is it that you just lost a loved one, okay? And now you have to fight the hospital because they labeled their death as something other than what it was. In a real world, what you die from is important to your lineage, your family, your grandkids, and et cetera, to see if that you're susceptible for heart attacks, lung cancer, et cetera. We literally had all the documentation showing that they were paying doctors $13,000 and $33,000 to list anybody as COVID. The CDC came out with this video is going to get taken down. I've already said too much. Whatever. At any rate, paying doctors $13,000 and $33,000 to list people as dying from COVID. All those people that died in New York. Remember the big production they put up? Oh, ventilators. We need ventilators. They were using ventilators incorrectly and literally drowning people to death and checking them off as COVID. Because like that lady Burks, the Trump's health minister, whatever she is, that creepy lady, was saying, if they died with COVID, then we're marking them as they died of COVID. And we even have this handy CDC chart. So all you got to do is check it off. It's absolutely unbelievable. But back to what I was saying, sort of, songbird is where they want people at. They want everybody to just shut up and stay in their house. Period. That's what they want. That's what the new world order will be. There will be people living in soup. You're going to be under house arrest. You are under house arrest. I made the biggest mistake in the world. I ran a couple of errands for my dad yesterday. I grabbed a couple of light bulbs, and then I stopped at the supermarket because I've been on the road for months eating terrible food. So I wanted to get some real food that I could actually cook in the oven. You know what I'm saying? So I did that, and I made the hugest mistake by stopping in Salem, Massachusetts on Halloween. Now, traditionally, if you stop in Salem on Halloween, you've got people dressed up like ghosts. It's Salem. That's the Salem witch trials, all the history. Well, Halloween was canceled, so there's that. But Salem is also the same city that decided to save everyone from global warming. We're going to stop using plastic bags that can be recycled down to a molecule. Take a paper plastic bag, put a lighter to it. It turns into 2 molecules. You can reproduce it, make it anything else. To save the world from global warming, we're going to switch over to paper bags. Now, the paper bags they give you suck because you put 2 things in it and the bottom falls out, and that pisses me off. Second, if you're trying to save the world from global warming, paper comes from trees. Don't cut down trees. The world was perfect before the Federal Reserve, the Rockefellers, and the Rothschilds. The Rockefellers doing the work of the Rothschilds in the United States showed up. Privatized school, privatized big pharma, privatized everything. Everything that we're seeing right now goes right back to 2 family lines. The Rothschilds have more money. That family has so much money, they could literally feed, clothe, and house every person on earth forever and still have more money than anybody, more money than you could possibly ever spend. But they don't. So there's that. At any rate, oh, he's killing me here. I don't want to keep yammering because I'll be saying something. He'll jump in the chat. I'll forget what I'm saying. It will end up going off into dirt bikes or, banana cream pies, something to that. Yeah, okay, my bad. Also, in Salem, I went to the grocery store and I was reminded to wear a mask. So 3 times during this entire event, I put a bandana on. It astonishes me that stores want you to walk in and completely hide your identity. But that's where we're at because we don't want any COVID droplets. That's the word, droplets spread here and there. Even though we've already learned that you cannot catch a cold through any of these. Dr. Kaufman came out first and he was on it and he proved it. Now other doctors have followed him up with books that specifically show with all this isn't their opinion. It's them showing you medical history. It's never been proven ever at all that you can catch a cold from somebody else. We all do happen to get sick at the same time of the year if you're going to get sick because we eat, sleep, breathe, and drink chemicals. Rockefellers, Rothschilds, all over again. We're breathing it from the chemtrails. We're drinking fluoride. We're eating genetically modified food that comes in a box. So chances are you're going to get sick. We all get sick at the same time. They threw a lasso around it and said cold and flu season. It's the perfect trick. And this whole pandemic proves how many people buy this. It's funny because I can see me playing on this other screen and it's like 5 seconds behind. It's kind of creepy. I'm a creepy bastard. I'm just kidding. I'm not that creepy, but whatever. I don't know. So, long story longer, when you go to the store, first of all, they have half of the register shut down for your convenience. Second of all, you have to stand in a line that goes all the way through the store and wait for some kid that couldn't do better than getting a job at a grocery store to tell you when you can go to a register. I'm so glad I had a bandana on because I can't keep my mouth shut. I'm not good like that. I can't pretend. I can't go along to get along. It ain't happening. And this is the biggest conspiracy ever. It's got nothing to do with money. It's got nothing to do with anything except they want to imprison you. When I was in that grocery store, it felt exactly like I was waiting for commissary in jail. Exactly. That's what they're doing. They're getting ready for everyone that will remain on this earth to stay in their house arrest. And when you come out, you do and act and be is exactly as they say. I can't believe people aren't going. I can't. It just blows me away that people are still going for this. Yeah, all right, dude. At any rate, it's unbelievable that we've let it get this far, and it's going to keep going further. And we've got troops on the ground in curfews in Philadelphia. I think I showed you that in the last video. It's unbelievable. That blows me away. But the military, I've been watching these articles. They show up absolutely everywhere. Since April, they've been saying there's going to be civil unrest at that election. Oh, boy, that election, there's going to be problems. So there's going to be riots. We're going to have, I think it's, 14 states have now called in the National Guard for the election. I mean, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It's not even real. And if I was a betting man, which I am, but I don't anymore, I would bet that they hand it to Biden, because I've watched a couple of Joe Biden's things where he's talking, and he's a blithering idiot. He's a blithering pervert, idiot, imbecile. And that makes me think they're going to hand it to him. And that should piss off all the MAGA people, but I lost faith. The MAGA people are the people that are supposed to be conservative, constitutional, stand-up people. And for somebody to pretend they're John F. Kennedy Jr. under the guise of it's Q. Just wait. I really wish you'd stop texting me, man. No, I'm busy right this second. What the Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. I can't stand it. Hey, I'm 8 feet away from you, so I'm going to keep texting you. It's unbelievable. At any rate. All right, check this out. I put this video up on my other channel. You may want to check this out. I missed most of it. I have the advantage of living on the Atlantic Ocean. This is the only good thing about the Atlantic, is that I can catch the moon coming right up out of the water. And last night, I missed it by like 20 minutes. So this is the moon. This is a blue moon, which means 2 full moons in 1 month on Halloween, coming right out of the Atlantic Ocean. And I caught it. It's good. I just wish I had caught it coming out of the ocean, because when it rises up out of the ocean, I've done videos on it before. It's crazy, because it does not look like a solid object in any way whatsoever at all. It looks like it's made of plasma, which before we went to the moon, remember that time? Hey, we're going to the moon. 9 months later, hey, we're on the moon. This is amazing. Scientists were saying the moon was made of plasma. And the book of Enoch and the book of Jasher, I believe, mentioned that it comes out of portals, and I'm totally down with that. I completely 100% believe that. And I've caught on video where all these dark spots on the moon, when it was rising out of the ocean, these were all moving around like they were arranging themselves, getting into place. The video is still up on Library. I was just going to say up on Richie from Boston, but that channel is long gone. So is an RFB2, long gone. I'm surprised at the amount of channels that are still left standing. I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know what to say about that, because a couple of channels I dig, James Corbett, he's got over 500,000 subscribers. He says the same exact words. He doesn't code. He doesn't self-censor, and he remains. Maybe it's because he lives in Japan. But then there's other channels that have the join button. Let me tell you, if you got the join button, you've done everything YouTube's ever told you to do, ever, and you've never said anything that crossed the line. You don't get the join button. I never got a join button. So there's that. I don't understand why certain channels are gone and certain channels are not. But I'll tell you one thing. Before the purge, RFB was already gone. Remember that time? Yeah, that was lame. Yeah. Check this out. Someone just, let me point. I watched this morning. I don't know what the hell that means. Stand by. Yeah, that's great. And the video, it's funny because yeah, at any rate, her video came up and whatever. She's just rehashing what everyone else has already talked about months ago, and then she brings up Joe Embriano. I don't trust that dude at all. Oh, they're not putting anything in the vaccines. Why in the world would you say that when it's completely and 1,000% wrong? But he did. That's a problem, and he should have backed up on it. Yeah, we all are. We all are. I suppose if you like listening to information that everyone's already put out 2-3 weeks earlier, yeah, it's awesome. Period. Deja Noah just jumped in and then he just fell out. He must have fell out. He must have heard what I said and he fell out of his chair. Exactly. Q told us all. At any rate, this video's up. It's like 16 minutes long, whatever. So check it out if you want or don't. Who cares? It's all good. Days, are you here? You there, brother?
Hey, what's up, man? I'm here.
It's all good. It's all good. How was that? How did you like that notice I gave you, huh?
Oh, it's always great, man.
It's all about scheduling. I got to make sure, we got to line everything up and so forth and so. Hey, Days, you want to go live in 2 minutes?
I'm ready to do it, man.
There it is. What's up, brother?
Man, I'm surviving. Just paying attention. Things are very interesting at this point, being that a day from now we're going to have this selection announced. I personally don't think it's going to be any form of announcement. Probably going to drag this thing out. It's just interesting. I really don't know what's going to happen. There's so many possibilities. It's partially very fascinating and intriguing, and then at the same time, it's a bit disturbing, being that there's going to be some people who literally lose their minds.
Well, fortunately, right before you jumped in, I already mentioned who I think's going to win, but the fact that at least 13 states have called in the National Guard because of the election. In the United States, 13 states are calling in the National Guard, and Philadelphia's already got a curfew in place with troops on the ground, heavily armored troops on the ground, man. It's unbelievable. This is even the United States of America anymore.
I know.
But this is what they want. This is what they want. In my opinion, they're going to hand this to Uncle Joe Biden because they got to spark MAGA off. They got to do, these guys won't do anything no matter what happens. They'll just sit home and trust the plan that just keeps going and going and going and nothing comes to fruition. I just mentioned prior to you jumping in that the MAGA people, the Q people, we've already gone over this inside, outside, backward and forward. MAGA is the Satanist high priest. Q is a supercomputer run by IBM. I really don't think John F. Kennedy Jr. is going to jump back out of the ocean or whatever and surprise us all. They're going to hand this over to Biden because watching Biden trying to be president it's like watching Saturday Night Live on acid. He makes no sense. He's a bumbling fruitcake freak who mentions the creepiest things about himself. And I mean, I've been coast to coast to coast, man. There's Trump signs absolutely everywhere. I've seen 2 Biden signs in my travels. 2. If they hand it to him, do you think that would set off MAGA?
Wow, this is a really interesting perspective. And I see why you come up with this, because it makes really good sense. And it is somewhat the logical conclusion to having the apprentice, Donald Trump, as the president of the United States, to then give it off to weekend at Biden's, right? So it's like, it makes sense to just hand the United States off to some partially alive, partially dead corpse. And it just makes sense, right? Also, this idea of pissing off MAGA. It's really, really interesting, especially when you, as you've said, and I've seen myself, everywhere you see Trump support. And it would really stoke the flame if they were to just give it to Biden. Then everyone would clearly lose their minds because they understand that Biden has no real support. There's really no movement for him. So I think this is
at all.
Yeah, it's a really good point. As much as I thought, and still hold this perspective, possibly that they want Trump to win just so they can continue this chaos that we've had, but there will be a whole new form of chaos if they give it to Biden,
Well, here's
which
the
will
thing.
flip the script, right? So it's interesting. I like that perspective. I really do.
But this commenter M Steg just put this up, and I wanted to keep this up because even though I'm saying that, because it makes sense if you're trying to piss off a bunch of people, and it should be a lot of people. It's a lot of people from the banners, the 18-wheelers, the signs, the Trump, absolutely everywhere. Handing it to Biden would be a good catalyst. But I'm still down with the theory that you had that Trump in America, Trump being symbolic of America. I still have a lot of faith in that. That taking him down while they're taking the country down at the same time probably does something for them. Like he's not one of the Gates. He's not one of the high up priest guys. He's, like you said, he's a thug. He's a billionaire that got his money handed to him not once but twice from his little hat friends overseas. And I think they're deconstructing him, and it's symbolically deconstructing America at the same time. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you did. And
you remember when you came up with that? Because I've listened to that recently.
Yeah, and I still think that holds plenty of truth. It's just that we got to remember this is the same bird, just two different wings. So whichever way they go, the same plan is going to be rolled out, just in a different format. So it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. It's just how they're going to roll it out. It could go this way. It's like Choose Your Own Adventure. Remember those books?
I do.
It's similar to this. It's like choose which direction you want to go. The end is already pretty much laid out. So at this point, man, it's like grab your popcorn and just keep your Bible open, because there's not really much we can do at this point. You might as well try to have a little fun, enjoy your family time, make a good meal, polish your weapon, whatever it takes. Let's just get ready, but at the same time, endure to the end, man, and be strong, and especially in the faith and long suffering. Let's just remember what this is truly all about. It's a spiritual battle. And we know we are being played here. We know this is just a massive psyop. And I mean, it's easy to say that until it starts knocking on your door, right? But at the same time, let's be smart about how we act and behave.
I agree, which is why I'm spending a lot of time on this other channel putting up stuff that is actually more uplifting and showing people things that they wouldn't necessarily see. I'm not going to let this stuff break me down, but it's amazing that you can't even live here anymore and just be left alone. You can't follow the rules. You can't do it because the rules are just changing and getting absolutely ridiculous. I was literally standing in a grocery store yesterday, and it was exactly like being in jail again. Exactly. You know what I mean? Except for, a professional correctional officer, there was a store clerk demanding that we wear a mask and stand in line and stay 6 feet apart. I couldn't believe it, man. This has been months and months and months. I mean, dude, if you lie to somebody over and over and over again, eventually they catch on. But apparently people aren't really catching on unless we're to believe the riots we're seeing in Italy and France and other countries. And unless we're to believe the rumors that the National Guard is training with Czechoslovakia or Latvia, one of those small countries that's doing a lockdown right now, and apparently our military is there to help or observe. That ain't good, man.
And that's a concern. Yes,
it's a concern. It's definitely a concern. And like I said, I put up that video yesterday or this morning, and it shows that RT News is the only one running it. Mainstream's not running it. Mainstream is very, very selective, man.
Yes.
Hey, Sarah Connor said that Tricknology was amazing. It was.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I don't know how you make videos for 3 hours, dude. You must drink a lot of coffee, dude.
No, I'm just, I got a lot on my mind.
It's all good. It's all good.
All I could really say.
All right.
But yeah, this is getting out of hand, man. Especially in California, for instance, this new scum, this guy, Thanksgiving guidelines. All right. He's talking about no more than 3 households present, for one, right? Parties no longer than 2 hours. Guests must stay outside. Avoid singing, chanting, and shouting.
It's chanting,
I mean,
because
can you
Thanksgiving's known for people getting in groups and chanting. They're mistaking our side for theirs, where they are chanting around some sort of a effigy or whatnot. But go ahead.
but I guess that's I guess it depends on what you're chanting, right? Because Black Lives Matter seems to be fine to be held as a chant everywhere and
And
anywhere at
again,
any time.
I've given this disclaimer many times. I grew up in the hood, straight up. And I've seen over the years, I mean, I've been alive forever, apparently. I've seen how you go to certain neighborhoods and it's drugstore, alcohol store, drug dealers everywhere, like they're invisible, but no work for anybody. So I get it. But the thing is it's been infiltrated and it's being steered and used as, like you said, a proxy army, and they do it really, really well. And it should be a great big beacon of light that the entire plague that's been gripping the world since March stopped, so they could riot and protest and knock things over and burn things. And as soon as it was over, it popped right up again in spades. It's unbelievable, man. It's absolutely unbelievable.
It is. And it's a misnomer. I mean, when we even say Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter isn't about the hood. It's not about the Black community to begin with. So it's unfortunate when you use the term. It implies it implies something, but in fact, it's not about the Black community at all. This is a globalist type of subsidiary of Agenda 21. It's basically a LGBTQ movement. They aren't in the hood, and in fact, they're not concerned with young Black males at all. In fact, all they really talk about is transgenders and homosexuals. So, really, the biggest issue in the Black community now is the homicide rates and the murders of young Black men. And it's interesting how Black Lives Matter as an organization pays very little attention to the most pressing issues in the Black community. And that and also we could go into things that you've stated, work, the leaving of the industries in the 70s, thanks to Nixon, and many other things that happened in these areas. Detroit is a good example. The loss of jobs, the LBJ Great Society programs that took fathers out of homes, and of course culture that has had the biggest negative effect in my view. So there's many things that need to be addressed in all of these issues. This alleged organization has nothing to say about it. So when I say Black Lives Matter, I'm not even discussing or mentioning or considering actual Black people. This is a farce. This is this type of governmental organization here that really doesn't have Blacks in mind at all. And there's a lot of issues, not just in the Black community, but in other communities. The Native population in the country has many issues that need to be dealt with that are completely ignored. There's many areas of impoverished populations of people of color, so-called, and non of color. So there's a lot of issues that really boil down to class and culture. And so, if someone wants to get political about these things, it's very easy to show all the holes that you can poke in this movement, this so-called Black Lives Matter movement, which is now kind of joined Antifa, and they're really just a battering ram for Agenda 21. It's really another way to bring down the system so they can bring in the Great Reset.
It's a good one too, because I mean, when have you ever seen in your entire life that prior to a presidential election in the United States, large corporate stores are boarding up publicly? That runs on the news. They show you that they're boarding up. They have been using. If you walk around, remember high school, if you walk around and tell every person in high school there's going to be a fight at the end of the day at 3 p.m., by the time the end of the day comes, there's going to be a fight one way or the other. If you keep pushing that rumor enough, it's going to happen. The military and the mainstream have been pushing the meme that there's going to be civil unrest, civil war, whatever, because of the election. And they've been pushing that since April. What I'm saying? What other end could they be looking for, in your opinion? Am I completely just making this up?
No, you're not. I mean, I think you're just pointing out the obvious, and it's unfortunate that more people can't do this, but I guess it's the spell, right? It's this enchantment that we're all experiencing right now by way of screens, especially through the social media movements that are in cahoots, I guess, indirectly with the mainstream media, which is just total mind control. But really, I mean, when you address the reset, the fourth industrial revolution, and you realize how much has to change in order for their plans to actually meet fruition, they have to literally deconstruct every aspect of society. And the problem is there's parts of the society that warrants this type of movement that justifies this breakdown. Poverty is a good example of this. Inequality is a good example of this. The lack of jobs is a great example of this. It's hard to find work. It's hard to own a home, especially if you're in the West Coast. It's impossible to own a home unless you're making six figures in many areas.
That's all by design. And
It's all by design.
even the people making 6 and 7 figures are getting burned out. I mean, I don't
Oh
know when
yeah.
people, it's pretty obvious what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? It's pretty
Yes.
obvious.
So it's brilliant in that there is very good reasons for a lot of this so-called reset that a lot of people are going to be on board with. And then you bring in the whole social justice aspect of it, which addresses historical issues between race relations, different forms of discriminatory law and order that was a huge part of our country for a very long time. A lot of things that haven't been worked out, a lot of discussions that haven't been able to actually reach the table and get worked out. There's a lot of issues we all have internally, interpersonal relational issues that we all have regarding race relations and these different things that need to be honestly and authentically discussed. But see, we have the wrong people handling these issues. We have people with ulterior motives handling these issues, so they're just going to kind of use these authentic and real issues but put them in a light that kind of directs everybody towards their goals. And ultimately their goals is automation. Okay, just the digital, data driven digital economy and digital platforms, everything virtual. Let me read you a real quick thing here out of I got a couple things I want to read, but I'm going to just start with this one here. This is from The Fourth Industrial Revolution by Klaus Schwab. I mean, this stuff is just
How
straight.
great. Let me just jump in real quick.
Yeah.
I never thought there'd be a day when you referred to a book while we were live, and I actually have it sitting on my desk as well. How crazy is this? But go ahead.
I love it.
Is it page 109 by chance?
Let me see. I got it here. It's not 109. No, but I do actually have some highlighted stuff on 109 as well. Yeah, inspired intelligence, the soul, right? Yeah, I got all of that highlighted as well. But let me just read this short part here. This is the idea of community. Okay, so what they realize, in order to make a virtual, this type of simulation style world, we have to reform what we understand as community. What community truly is small neighborhoods, shared values, right? Culture, which is usually propped up around or usually upheld by a form of religion, usually a form of faith, right? So there is a faith base, there is a value system that everyone shares. And of course, in America, nationalism has played a big role here, right? Nationalism has kind of encompassed the idea of faith, values, belief systems, morals, and all of these things, meaning there is some use and strength to nationalism. So what we now, that shouldn't be the focus, of course, but it is one of those kind of, it's a part of culture that brings people together and gives them some sense of an identity. So this is community, right? Small towns, uh, third places, places like pubs and barber shops and cafes, those little parts of the community that we would all meet at and kind of have conversations and create bonds, right? This whole idea of the small town, the community parks, all of these very traditional things they are now getting rid of. And what I find interesting with the COVID situation is it directly attacks these specific things. Hence, no longer gathering with your family, no longer having parties. Who are they targeting most of the time? It's usually family gatherings, right? Church gatherings, very wholesome things they seem to be attacking, whilst they allow liquor stores to remain open and all of these other degenerate type of areas seem to be left alone. Anyhow, he says here, from a broad societal standpoint, one of the greatest and most observable effects of the digitization is the emergence of the me-centered society, a process of individuation and emergence of new forms of belonging and community. Contrary to the past, i.e., tradition, the notion of belonging to a community today is more defined by personal projects and individual values and interests rather than by space, the local community, which is what I just was describing, work and family. So now they're saying, so what he's saying is interest, personal interests, and projects, right? Projects for who? Right? We literally become working bees. We become units for some tech industry company algorithm or something, right? So instead of having spaces where we meet, physical spaces where we meet and we engage and we bond, instead of work and family, we now have these new virtual spaces that are going to be the new communities. And we've already started them here on YouTube, for instance. This is a great example of this type of community. This isn't to say these communities are bad or we should demonize them. The point is, these shouldn't be the only communities we're existing in, right? We should have a balance of these things. We should have online communities as well as real world communities. The problem is they want to remove the real world communities, the material bonds that we have in the world, and replace them with these virtual bonds. As a whole, which is dangerous. So let's check this. He says new forms of digital media, which form a core component of the fourth industrial revolution, are increasingly driving our individual and collective framing of society and community. As the forum explores in the Digital Media and Society report, digital media is connecting people one-to-one and one-to-many in entirely new ways, enabling users to maintain friendships across time and distance, creating new interest groups, and enabling those who are socially or physically isolated to connect with the like-minded people. The high availability, low cost, and geographically neutral aspects of digital media also enable greater interaction across social, economic, cultural, political, religious, and ideological boundaries. They're covering all angles here. What he's saying is enable greater interaction. Who's to say this is greater? I think this is it could be more convenient. It does have an aspect of convenience, but what do you mean by greater? That's a qualification. What quality are we really gaining through these types of virtual bonds as an exchange of physical ones? Really? Think about that. They're telling you exchange your physical relationships and bonds for this eternal virtual one. And they're trying to describe it like it's a greater interaction. It's just crazy to me. And I have one about the truth community as terrorists, domestic terrorists. I'll read that when we get to that topic. But this is leading into that, basically trying to convince us that you need to be okay with this type of virtual existence because it's going to provide you greater interaction.
It's amazing how many people are okay. There's about 300 comments I really want to comment on, but I'm going to stick with this one. Whoever you are, apparently you're new. Okay, I'll leave it at that. Because I guess the playlist that I've had up since I'd say 2013 on the Ashkenazi Jews, maybe that doesn't meet your definition, but I'm going to digress. It's astounding to me that with things like the Fourth Industrial Revolution, that book's been out. This book is still on Amazon, and you can basically see the plan right off the bat. COVID-19, the Great Reset, the very first thing after the introduction says, before we can institute everything else that's in this book, first, we would need a macro reset. Mm-hmm. Now, for those that don't understand that, because some people might not understand that, micro means small, macro means large. So what he's saying is before we can institute everything that's written in this book right here, that's on Amazon right now, you can buy for $12, we need to do a macro reset. We need to stop everybody on earth from doing what they've been doing their entire lives so we can redirect everyone to our new agenda. How could you get everyone on earth to stop doing what they were doing?
Thank you.
COVID-19. That's exactly why the book is called COVID-19. The Great Reset, not the rush to the vaccine or dealing with all the deaths, because everyone, it's astonishing to me that you can look around right now go outside your house and say, oh, yeah, there's a pandemic that's been going on for almost an entire year, because you can't unless you see jerk offs walking around in the winter now wearing masks. It blows me away how long this scam's been going on. I asked you one time live. I asked you one time before that, did you think this was a spell? It has to be.
Yeah.
And somehow we're immune, which makes us terrorists. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. That's
Crazy.
where this is going. Yes.
Oh no, without a doubt. They're already ramping it up. And I had shown this from your video, actually, because I refer to this video a lot. And YouTube is definitely messing with it, because you should have 200 million views, where you have the opening of your video was Klaus Schwab explaining how great this COVID-19 plague is, so that we can do a great reset. He doesn't care about all the lives that are being lost, and all the children that are being traumatized, and all the elderly that are being dumped off at hospitals and quarantined for 2 weeks and left alone. The last days of your life, yeah, you can't be here because of COVID-19. It's ridiculous. All he's talking about is the great reset. And then I put up a video earlier today in 2017, when Harvard University put up their website called Solar Shield, where they came out and said, yes, we are indeed going to block the sun, which means we've already been doing it. I thought that right there was validation. Because they explained the exact means and method that they would use to block out the sun to save us all from climate change. It's the same means and method we've been talking about for a decade, and nobody cared. And then a month after they did that, they came out with a piece going, conspiracy theorists are attacking and threatening to kill poor David Keith because he's blocking the sun. Well, I can't speak to that. I don't know anybody that would threaten him, because I think that's completely ridiculous. But after everything we've talked about, all the channels that picked up the Great Reset, they're doing the same thing right now with their managing director, Adrian Monk, came on talk radio and discussed straight up the Great Reset conspiracy theories. Now, I didn't catch this in the original one, but if you take his name, Adrian Monk, and put it in a word descrambler, it comes out to draconian. Mm-hmm. His name spells draconian. What a complete and utter coincidence, other than the fact that the video started out at 1536. And then he just goes on to cite people like David Icke. You know, people love David Icke because he has a British accent. But his claim to fame is he came on he went on national television and told everybody, I am Jesus Christ. He's been around for a million years, but these guys, Icke, Alex Jones, whenever somebody from the World Economic Forum, the managing director in this instance, comes out and calls out the conspiracy theory community, they always pick up Jones or Icke, and that's exactly what he did. And he never answered any questions. He just basically badmouthed us and went, that's ridiculous. He's like, he said it would be a conspiracy if a bunch of corporations didn't get together and try to direct the world. You know, it's amazing. And it got an unbelievable amount of thumbs down. But have you seen this yet?
I haven't, and I really am looking forward to watching it, because
his name spells draconian. It uses almost every letter in his name. I picked that up after I did the video. I did it just for fun.
The interesting part is they always seem to attack the same figureheads, right? Jones, Icke. What's interesting about that is if they wouldn't, right? They would never address people who are actually taking these ideas and addressing them logically with the type of sound argumentation using historical evidence. They would very rarely, if at all, address those accounts. For instance, the work that I do at my channel, the work that you do, the work that many other people do, Corbett, for instance, they would never address those pieces of work, because the arguments and the information is just too hard to deny when it comes to some of these things. And we're not putting out some left field ideas that you would find with Jones or Icke. So it makes sense why they kind of target those figureheads. But the problem is everybody speaking against this gets lumped in with this whole conspiracy theorist hack thing. And that's the part that's really unfortunate, because we don't even get a chance to speak. We just immediately, conspiracy theorists, you get deleted right
It
there.
was a great setup. When they weaponized that term in 1967, the year I was born, coincidentally, it's worked really well because nobody wants to be a conspiracy theorist. There's so many conspiracies going on in the last 20, 30 years that anything you talk about could fall into that category. So people are just sticking with their mainstream, their sports. I mean, I didn't even know this was a thing, but apparently it is. Sports teams are playing in arenas, but the people that are in the audience are cardboard cutouts.
Oh, that's the most disturbing thing. Oh my
That's
goodness.
crazy, dude.
They're
I didn't
really
know
doing that. You
I
know,
didn't know it was a thing.
it's kind of funny. I didn't even mean to do this, but when this thing first kicked off, I think it was in uh, probably March, like right when the lockdown happened. I was doing a little series on my Patreon called Live from the Bunker because I was locked down. I couldn't really leave the house, and I just had a lot of time on my hands, so I was just putting out my ideas. And as one of the thumbnails, I used an image of this. I think it was a baseball field, and they had all these dummies in the crowd. And I think it might have been an art installation. I forget where I sourced that, but it's funny how they're really doing that now. They're actually putting cardboard cutouts of people in the stands, and mind you, you can purchase one for yourself. So so, so
Say
you
that
can be
again.
there. You can purchase one. They're selling these things, man. They're
Of course they
selling they're selling cardboard cutouts at these games, man. It's absolutely bananas. I can't even believe this is real, but you can purchase one and have your own cardboard cutout there as if you were there.
And I would imagine they're sold out. I would imagine you can't even get one. You got to go on a waiting list because that's just where we live. Let me answer this.
Wouldn't be surprised.
I keep getting this question in the chat. Are the Jesuits behind this? Listen, at this point, it's us against them. We've already spent 10 years. It's the Vatican, it's the Jesuits, it's the Black Pope, the White Pope, it's the Jews, it's the Ashkenaz. It's us against them. That's all there is to it right now. I don't have enough time in the day to start going down that rabbit hole all over again.
Well, they're all on the other side.
Against them.
Yeah, they're all on the other side. They're all playing for the deceiver. They're all on his team at the end of the day. And there's a big historic element with the Jesuits, of course, and we understand where the tiny hats play a role in all of this, especially in regards to media and the economy.
Can you believe we have to say things like tiny hats, dude?
I know. It's ridiculous.
At any rate, go ahead. My bad.
But I mean, anybody that's been studying this stuff, I mean, looking at Kevin McDonald's work, I mean, come on, it's just pretty obvious where all these guys play. But at the end of the day, they're managerial classes. Satan is at the top of all of this, using these different groups to foment all of these movements. Of course, Jesuits play a role. Of course, tiny hats play a role. They all have their positions, but they all play for the same team at the end of the day. And a lot of people just want to have somebody to blame everything on. I understand that. You want to have someone to point the finger at, but really that comes down to a personal issue, not an issue that actually means anything in reality. Because in reality, we have to address things objectively, but we have to look at things of how they work as a system, as a whole entire system. So there's always a multifaceted result when you start to address things, I'd say, properly. Nothing is in a vacuum per se, right?
I agree, man. I agree. You've got to watch this piece. You've got to see this. It's only 15 minutes long, or 18 minutes long. I'm sorry. But it's amazing how this guy is coming out and what this does right here. And I've noticed this. I'm not showing it because I'm an imbecile. All right, stand by. What am I doing here? There we go. It's amazing that this guy took the time, but here's the deal. They do this every time. If you go after CERN too much, they'll address you one way or the other. If you go after any of these big corporations, Harvard University, Solar Shield, they'll put up one of these little pieces one time saying these conspiracy theorists are out of their mind. So now when you try to tell somebody what's going on and show them their own words, like the book, the COVID-19, The Great Reset by Klaus Schwab, or The Great Reset all over the World Economic Forum, or all over the place because it's making its way to mainstream, they watch a piece like that, and that gives them an excuse to not listen to you and listen to this stranger whose name happens to come out to draconian. if you simply move the letters around, which is just a strange coincidence. I mean, seriously, but that's their excuse to not listen, because if you listen, you got to change. You know what I mean? You got to let go of the world, man. You got to let go of Halloween and Thanksgiving and all these other pagan holidays.
Exactly. Check this out. This speaks directly to what you're talking about. This info war kind of domestic terrorism aspect of truth speakers. So here on page 95, at the end of community, he has to address the truth community. Now, he doesn't say the truth community, but he does address in his community, the community paragraph where he discusses the idea of community. At the end, he addresses this part of the community that wants to speak out against the status quo and how dangerous they are. That is the truth community. That's who he's speaking about here. So let's see. He says the democratic the democratic power of digital media. So basically what he's saying is one of the problems of this digital virtual world is it gives everybody a voice. The problem with that is it's going to become something or put in the hands of people who don't agree, people who have other perspectives, people who want to speak against the status quo. The democratic power of the digital media means it can also be used by non-state actors. These are the terms he uses: non-state actors, meaning you're not down with the state, you're not of the state, you're not brainwashed into all of this, or you aren't literally hired by the state to put out propaganda. It be used by non-state actors, particularly communities with harmful intentions, to spread propaganda and to mobilize followers in favor of extremist causes. And to extremist causes, as has been seen recently with the rise of Daesh and other social media savvy terrorist organizations. So you see here how they're equating us to terrorist organizations of other countries, usually I know there's a lot of Islamic stuff going on right now. So they're always going to equate anybody that goes against the status quo through digital media as some form of terrorist. I'll continue. He says, there is the danger that dynamics of sharing that typifies the dynamics of sharing that typifies social media use can skew decision making and pose risks to civil society. Counterintuitively, the fact that there is so much media available through digital channels can mean that an individual's news sources become narrowed and polarized into what MIT clinical psychologist Sherry Turkle, one of an individual who I've read her work, and she really puts out a lot of truths. A professor of the social studies of science and technology calls a spiral of silence. This matters because what we read, share, and see in the context of social media shapes our political and civic decisions. So this guy is straight up saying, look, whatever's out there on the internet is going to shape the way people think. We need to be careful about who we allow to roam freely in this digital realm. We need to be careful about what information gets out. So he's not straight up calling for censorship, but you could read between the lines here. Basically what he's saying is dissent is dangerous for this movement. Dissent is dangerous for the Great Reset. Right there, we're experiencing that literally right now.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, look at how many times Bill Gates has come out and just said crazy things like, there's too much freedom. There's too much truth. There's too much people on the internet. I mean, this dude straight up says this. And it's funny how when Gates came out of the gate with this whole thing, Event 201, etc., and everybody nailed him right off the rip. Everybody just laid right into him, exposed what they put out there probably for us to expose, the ID 2020, etc. It's all been switched over to the World Economic Forum. It's just like a football game. They just redo a play, put in another player, and keep going towards that goalpost. That's what they're doing.
Interesting how that works, huh? No one knew who they were, say, last year.
At all. Nobody knew what Davos was. Well, some of us did, but
we did, but
didn't really talk about it much because it was like James Corbett said, it was like Bilderberg light.
Yes, perfectly stated.
This is who they're putting up right now. And if too much heat shows up where they actually have to do things like this with Adrian Monk, they'll switch over to somebody else. Somebody else will come up. I just removed myself from the live stream like an idiot. If too much heat falls on this Great Reset, they'll just switch it over to someone else. It'll say the Great Reset was a terrible idea. We're going to do a great redo, and people will fall for it. It's amazing, man. It's amazing because they're doing it all under the guise of climate change.
Yes.
It's all to save the earth. It's
You're
all
so right. You're so right. All they have to do is literally change the language, right? That's how easy it is for them at this point. Just change the language. It's
and that's
man.
what they do. That's what they do every single time. They're good at this. This, you know, the agent that's running this from, like, the one agent running this from behind the scenes has already seen how this all ends, et cetera, et cetera. You know, if you're standing next to God while he's creating, you're going to pick up a lot of helpful tips that you can use if you want to destroy God's creation. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've been watching them do for 10 years since my eyes were open. I've been watching them. Everything they do to us is what it is. But I've been watching them deconstructing creation, poisoning the waters, poisoning the water, destroying the skies, killing the trees, killing animals at an alarming rate. That was all creation. And I'm seeing this over and over. The Christianity's a psyop. The Bible's a psyop. Well, check this out. I've been alive long enough, and I've been out in the world enough to see the scientifically provable fingerprints of God everywhere. The Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio is in every single solitary living, breathing thing, everywhere. And scientists used to talk about this. Scientists that deny it now actually use it as the basis for their denials. It's amazing. It's utterly amazing. I know that we weren't. I mean, this is what they're offering us. Big Bang. There was nothing, and one day it exploded. Well, that doesn't make sense, but it doesn't need to. We were rocks, and then it rained, and then eventually we turned into some sort of muck, and then we all decided to be, I'm going to be a giraffe, an elephant, a person. It isn't like that. It wasn't like that, and it makes sense. And enough of you people have dreamt, had afterlife experiences, out-of-body experiences, etc., to understand there is a God. They've done testing with drugs that literally open the pineal gland. They've done massive tests where they were blind. The 200, 300, 400 people in these tests that took ayahuasca or they took DMT all reported the same exact thing, but they never actually talked to each other. They don't talk about that very much. There is a chemical way to mess with things that you're not supposed to see. And I've been alive long enough to see evil, straight up evil, in its dark, frightening form. And that's what these people are going to bring onto us. So if you don't believe in God, that's great. Why say it in the comment section? I don't get it.
I mean, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to anyone who might be an atheist, but I mean, at this point, atheism it's literally on its way out. Just even science alone is proving the inadequacy of these presuppositions of atheism. When you discover the circles of atheism in the world, they're usually low level thinking, a very systematic thinking, very left side of the brain dominant thinking, which is missing a whole other part of reality. They have very little understanding of metaphysics. They don't know philosophy at all. So it's like materialists and atheists are actually the lowest level thinking on earth at the moment. And if you want to get into the whole IQ argument, it's usually the highest IQs are very aware of God and do believe in God, just based on the presuppositions of not believing in God being flawed. I mean, if everything happened by chance and by system, then there would be no purpose or meaning in anything. Therefore, there would be no purpose for morality, nor would there be any reason to want to save or persist, or there'd be no reason to want to develop anything, right? So the whole atheism thing is extremely juvenile thinking at this point in time. And there's plenty of evidence to prove that. We won't have a philosophical discussion at the moment, but anytime I hear an atheist, I just kind of chuckle to myself, because it's like almost prehistoric thinking at this point.
I agree.
I really, and I don't pity much, but I pity the atheistic perspective. It's robotic thinking. It's literally not only a personal issue, but it's a brain issue. And of course, I'd say at the end of the day, it's a heart issue.
I agree. And it's also an easy out. It's an easy out for those people that spend too much time thinking about judgment. I don't think about judgment. I just try not to do any harm to people. If we were all creatures of evolution, to quote Big Sib, I can't remember it. Son of a frog, monkey, fish. Oh, I can't remember it. That's lame. Whatever. We wouldn't have that little voice in your head when you're about to do something wrong. You can deny it if you want, but everyone has it. There's a little voice. Don't do this. It's wrong. There's going to be. You have it. That's the voice of God. You know what I'm saying? If you just evolved from monkey, fish, frog. Thank you. My bad. That wouldn't be there, dude. That wouldn't be there. So we're in some strange waters, and it's funny that we haven't actually heard much about the Big Bang Theory at all. But I will tell you one thing. I was banging that drum about the darkest winter for a long time, and nobody seemed to care until Joe Biden said it. Dude.
Yes.
Well, so here's the deal. The darkest winter could tie back into the DHS reports that they put out saying there's an EMP threat, dark, or it could be referring to Dark Winter, the drill that they did where everyone was infected with some sort of a virus. But we know now that you can't get a virus like that, but you can get poisoned, which will look a lot like a virus, or they could simply flip on 5G, because 5G, since this started and now, 5G is probably pretty much operational, if I had to guess. And that's all I am doing is guessing, but I've seen a lot of the new LED lights that they put in all over towns and cities so you can gaze at the stars better. That's their excuse. Let me tell you something. The same people that shut off the power in California because it's going to be a windy day and they don't want your house to burn down, but then it burns down anyway, they don't care if you can see the stars. Elon Musk doesn't care. NASA, Homeland Security, nobody cares if you can see the stars, but it's a hell of a guys putting in these street lights absolutely everywhere. And one of our brothers over in the UK took one of those apart, and it's a 5G transmitter. Those are up everywhere. 5G, those doctors, I tried to put the video up on YouTube and it got pulled. These group of doctors tried to publish a study that they did. That's what they do. They published it to PubMed saying 5G is going to cause exactly what they're claiming COVID causes, except 5G is real and COVID isn't. And PubMed pulled it. Remember that video?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, we're going into those days right now. No pun intended. Yeah. What would your best educated guess be? Because there's no way Joe Biden thought to say dark winter, and then he reiterated dark winter twice. That was for everybody. So it wasn't a mistake. I said it twice.
And there is also the idea of them having a earpiece and someone kind of relaying information to them while they speak. There's definitely something behind this. It's hard to really say with any certainty, but it's clear that the whole idea of dark winter is prepping us for something, right? And they've been prepping us for a long time. There's been this priming methodology behind a lot of the propaganda we've been seeing in the news, a lot of the terminology and words that they're using, anchors, as it were, this idea of repeating something to kind of anchor it into your subconscious.
Right.
So when it occurs, you'll be able to refer to that anchored term in your subconscious, and it just you approve, you accept, it's normalized in your psyche, I guess.
So let me ask you this. When you're saying that repeating that word is to anchor it in your psyche so you have it there so that when the event happens, you subconsciously refer back to it. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Okay. So is that why before this entire thing hit, they decided on Netflix the best program to put up would be Pandemic, which also starred and featured Bill Gates. And then magically, crazily enough, the show that taught you the words social distancing, etc., went live, and it turned into our reality. Is that an anchor as well?
There you go, Rich. That's it, man. Absolutely.
Right there. My theory has been they put up shows like that because people watch these shows. Pandemic, it's January, it's cold out. People are watching Netflix. They're watching Pandemic, and it teaches them how to act or how they want you to act when the actual event occurs.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. This is behavior modification, behavior
Behavior
modeling.
modification.
Behavior modeling is another term. This is also predictive programming, how predictive programming works, or what esotericism would call lesser magic. Right, this idea of anchoring and planting ideas and moods, even not just language, but also moods. Moods are also part of it. So when you first hear that term, the mood that you feel when you hear that term is also anchored. So when you when you experience that again, you kind of re-experience it almost as if it is a type of flashback. This is all very deep psychology stuff, but it's real in the sense that there is a spiritual component there, a spiritual mechanism there that has it does have power in this world, powers and principalities. Those are real things, and I think a lot of this plays a role there. To the degree of its strength and power is debatable and it's subjective, I guess, at the end of the day, but it's there. This stuff is happening and we see it. As you said before, the spell. The spell is a perfect way to describe the reaction and the behaviors, the patterns of behaviors that we're seeing here today.
Well, speaking on that same vein, have you seen this movie trailer that's coming out?
Oh man, is this the Songbird? Oh man,
Dude, it
dude.
is so bad, but
This is horrible.
I can see this coming, dude. YouTube allowed this. YouTube, if you put up anything that crosses the line whatsoever, at least on my channel, it doesn't make it through me putting in the description. It's gone. This one I put up on YouTube, and I knew it wasn't going to last, but I thought it wasn't going to last at all. They let it stay up for 33,000 views, and then they pulled it.
Wow.
And I get it. I mean, I got Bob Marley. I got copyright strikes. I get it. But watching this is unbelievable. But I can see this happening. I can see this happening, no problem. People staying in their houses.
Yes.
This is insane, dude.
It's insane on so many levels because I just say, just off the rip, it's like, look, talk about kicking a man while he's down, right? I mean, people are frightened. People are stressed, depressed, suicidal, losing their livelihood, being forced into all of these new situations that are literally driving some people crazy. And you're going to release a film during this moment, this climate. You're going to release a film that just exacerbates all of those things, just perpetuates this whole idea of fear and insecurity. It's amazing to me. Now, maybe we shouldn't be amazed, right? This is Hollywood. This is the satanic beast system. But just could it be any more obvious? This is so abusive on so many levels, man. It pisses me off, man.
Me too. I get infuriated, and sometimes I make videos and then I stop. It's like, dude, you're freaking out. And when I get mad, I tend to swear, so I try not to. But this is insane, man. And then I pulled up this Netflix thing. I said, oh, let me see if I can find that movie Pandemic. I figured they buried it. Oh, no, not at all. Instead, they put up the article and they're like, it's unbelievable that the makers of the Netflix series Pandemic, they were right all along. And it's like, are you kidding me? They were right. You know, it's astounding to me. And then again, who's in the background pulling the strings at Netflix?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I didn't know that. Imagine
Obama.
that. He just doesn't go away.
Higher Ground Productions.
You bet. You bet. And then let's not forget that one little thought that we were having about Biden winning, and then he falls. You know, you just became the next new president of the United States of America, and then he falls off the stage and dies. And Kamala steps up. She's got to pick someone to run with her, right? I don't know how that works, but I would not be one bit shocked whatsoever at all.
I like this theory about Biden, man. It's now I will be honest and say I kind of had my own version of that as well.
Well, run it. What is it?
No, it's very similar. Just that they actually are going to let Biden actually come in and take the reins and just await the fallout of the conservative right, just the discontent and what could possibly ensue riots and serious levels of civil war. Because you better believe if Biden wins, the left, the the progressive movement is going to gloat. They are going to parade.
Oh,
They are going to rub it in the face of
oh,
every Trump supporter. Now, of course, being apolitical, I know how this is all one bird and both sides are being played against each other. But I do also know very well and am open with the fact that my political leanings, if I were to consider policy, are conservative, right? This isn't to say I agree with anything that would demonstrate a Republican perspective, but I think conservatism is really based on my Christian faith based system, right? My Christian faith. I think being a Christian, you in a sense have to take on, or just you inevitably take on conservative views. Now, that's a whole conservatism is actually not what republicanism is practicing at the moment. Conservatism, real in political, the conservatism you would learn about in political philosophy is much different from what you see in the conservative right now and through the Republican Party, which is mainly neoconservatism. So we won't get into the whole political philosophy and that part of it. But what I am saying is that I do, in many ways, uh, I do kind of identify with the perspective of wanting to keep a sense of nationhood, nationalism, wanting to keep a sense of Americanism, of the culture of America, because in this sense, we are able to keep our family traditions and some of our traditional social patterns and cultural patterns. There's power there. There's purpose there. I think those things are important. So I do agree with some of the what some would call the conservative right's perspective of family based living. Right, I agree with that. But at the same time, all those things are changing. Those things are now becoming no more under this new reset. As I've read earlier, they're not about traditional families anymore. It's about this new virtual, distant, detached type of engagement that's coming. So I could see them rubbing all of this in the face of the conservative right and them just getting really upset. And there being some small scale, localized, regional civil wars going on. So this could happen. It would be an interesting situation. And of course, I think Biden would right away bring down that kind of medical tyranny
oh,
where
hell yes.
yeah, the forced everything,
He,
masks,
he's
vaccines, everything.
he already put that out there months ago, if you recall, before masks were a thing. You know what I mean? We were in a period where, oh, you don't need masks anymore. And then it came back because, viruses last 7, 10, 12, 20, 30, 50 months, just forever. But the fact that Trump started putting it out in the mainstream months and months ago that I won't step down. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they don't even have, like, you'd think in a real world we'd have somebody that was actually in a real world. If the United States wasn't a corporation for over 100 years, if the Federal Reserve had been audited and really was part of the government, not a privately held bank by guys that tend to wear small hats, that live in other countries, that don't get attacked by the people that attack us somehow. In a real world, you'd have somebody come up there and just say, how in the world could you vote for Trump? America has never, ever been in as bad shape as she is right now.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody poses that. It's just not a big deal. They got this guy up there talking about the hair on his legs being wet. Little kids rub it up and down. That's crazy.
It is.
That's crazy talk, because these aren't organic words that he's just spitting out there. They have crews around them. Every picture they take is carefully orchestrated. Every speech they say is carefully orchestrated.
Yes.
This guy is like a Saturday Night Live skit, but he's running for president of the country. And he's the guy that wrote the Patriot Act, or at least took credit for it. That's a bad thing.
It is.
You know what I'm saying?
And also just think about discussing this idea of Trump. Say he were to get power again. What was he talking about in the debate? I'm going to have the military administer these vaccines. I mean, what is that about, man? I mean, where is that? I'm just like, what are you talking about, bro?
It's crazy stuff. And people, and again,
that's alarming.
You can show that to people. It doesn't, you would, in a real world, again, let's pretend this is all real. We've got more than enough hospitals, clinics, and facilities, except for the fact that during this pandemic, this plague that gripped the United States, we lost half of those people because they all got laid off or let go because they wouldn't play ball. Do you know what I'm saying? We're in the midst of a pandemic, but medical professionals, people that I know, lost their jobs. Doctors lost their jobs because there's nothing that people aren't going to hospitals anymore because the whole world changed.
Exactly.
It's a trip, man. It's
It
an
is.
absolute trip here.
So for anyone who's stuck in this paradigm of left and right, if you're on the right, I mean, don't feel so excited about Trump getting another 4 years, because he is very clear about bringing in military administered
It's
vaccines.
a perfect Trojan horse. I think we spoke on this before.
Yes.
Nobody would see, because if you're going to believe this whole MAGA Q, all this nonsense, you're going to believe that the troops rolling down your street in every city and town in the United States are there to help. But here's the deal. Once the troops are in the cities and streets, we've never done it. We'd never rolled into another country, completely saturated the entire country, every city and street, and then rolled out quietly. We don't do that. It's not what we do. And then some wacko or probably agent provocateur will take a shot. That shot's fired, it is on. No matter what they were there for in the first place, now they're being attacked by probably conspiracy theorists or whatever, whatever's the problem that week. But it's a perfect recipe to set the whole place up. No one would ever see it coming. I mean,
Either way,
couldn't be any more obvious, but I guess they won't see it coming.
They won't. And either way it goes, there's going to be drama. If Biden gets in, the right's going to flip out. They're going to think this thing has been totally manipulated based on the obvious. There's clear tons of Trump support, and the opposite is the case with Biden. So they're going to flip out because they're going to think of some tampering. And if Trump wins, the left's going to freak out just based on the fact that Orange Man bad, right? So either way, it's going to be hell to pay in this country in certain regions, especially the metropolitan areas. So I think that it's just a given at this point. The question is this is the question. Where are things going to go moving forward? We understand that right away, the initial stage is going to be chaos, right? What's the order that comes next? Each side, whoever wins, the order is going to be a different flavor. It's going to be a different hue. That's the interesting parts. Is if Trump does take another 4, how is he going to roll things out? If Biden gets in, how is he going to roll things out? After all of the chaos kind of calms down, what is the new system going to entail? That's the part that I'm concerned about and interested in figuring out.
Well, I think the new system is exactly what that movie trailer was showing. Sadly enough,
let's hope not.
Well, that's what I mean. Look at this isn't. I get a lot of emails going, dude, you've predicted this every step of the way. And it's like, I'm not predicting it. I'm showing you what I've been quacking about on and off for 10 years. This Agenda 21.
Yes.
Where they literally move everybody off of their property over by the Great Lakes, Michigan, that whole area where you live in super smart cities, and the rest of it is off limits so that Gaia can return to her former glory. Except the people that wrote this are the same people that destroyed the earth. They're the ones that clear cut rainforest so they could grow soybeans, so they could feed cows, so they could make hamburgers. And they're the ones that put nuclear power plants on every river and stream in the United States. And then the Nuclear Regulatory Commission upped the level that you're allowed to dump in the water, thereby making it all completely unfit for human consumption or everything else. And then finally, let's not forget, Monsanto is the one that tricked everyone in the world into using Roundup. Every farmer, every gardener, the entire earth is covered with atrazine and whatever else. Do you know what I'm saying?
But it's about the environment, though.
But when you're spraying things, it is changing the genetic makeup from male to female, even in amphibians. That ain't good.
But it's about the environment, right?
You bet. That's the funny thing. They're like, we're here to save the environment. It's like, you guys are the ones that destroyed it.
This whole Agenda 21, 2030, Great Reset, this is the next 10-year long-term plan.
The 2030 is going to be a benchmark for them to see how many of their goals of Agenda 21 got completed, which means
precisely
people got to go, houses got to go, national lines have to go, cash has to go. I mean, they've already been working on that. They know that's going to be a tough one, but I think that'll all change in the next month or so. It'll get a lot easier. Things are
It'll
going to
get,
get ugly.
yeah, that's a good point. It's going to be interesting how they get rid of cash. I personally think it's going to take some time because there are still billions of lower income, impoverished populations that rely on this form of currency. Now, this is why they are pushing heavily the digital ID, because the digital ID is going to be connected to a digital currency transaction system, right? So that, I think, is how they're going to eventually get rid of the cash, is because they have to figure out how can we provide all of these millions and billions of people that rely on the cash currency, tangible currency. How can we get technology in their hands to connect them to the digital system so they no longer have to rely on a tangible currency for their transaction making? Once they accomplish that, cash is gone. That's going to take a little time. They're pushing it hard right now. It's huge in Africa. They're pushing it really, really hard in Africa, which is kind of always one of the testing grounds for very basic level things. They do the same thing in China. We see that with social credit systems. So in my view, just based on some of the things I've been looking at, that's how they're going to accomplish that, but it will take some time. We already see the Netherlands and those parts of Northern Europe that are already lockstep, right, in line with this whole digital currency. I think they're almost 100%. I know people still use tangible currency there, but for the most part, they are ready to go with the singularity, right? So that's the whole question. When is cash going to be gone? In my view, it's going to take some time. I think we still got at least another good 5 years of cash being a big part of our economy. Just a theory based on how much has to really change, but you never know, man. The way they create all of these pandemics and stuff, they could change things overnight. We saw that happen for the past 6 or 7 months.
5 years would be phenomenal. It would absolutely be phenomenal. Somebody left a comment, and it ties to this, saying the only way to beat this game is to not play. Well, that's what I've been doing since this started, and it's incredibly difficult. Imagine when the vaccines come out, and imagine what their next move is going to be, because there's a move. There's got to be a big bang that's got to go off, and the election could be it, but it's going to be anytime. Like I said, they promised us the darkest winter. The best time to take out your enemy is in the winter, because you have the upper hand on almost every level. They've already started destroying the food chain. They're already breaking out universal basic income in the States, in Michigan. They're testing it out there. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy stuff. I wish none of this was even happening. This sucked. This whole thing just sucks.
Yeah.
I drove 2,300 miles to hand somebody COVID-19, The Great Reset book, and I thought that would be like, oh my God, you were right. I don't care it's beyond that. I don't care. And that's not what it didn't work. Not from what I can see.
Really?
Yes, it sucked.
I'm getting through it right now. And it's just, I mean, I had plenty from the fourth industrial work, but this one is just eye-opening. It's just, wow, they really show you how they're going to use this
and to
implement it all.
The very first chapter is a macro reset.
Yes.
How do you stop everybody from doing what they've always been doing their entire lives and redirect them to what you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, lock them in, make them wear a mask. They got to stand in line they're doing it. It's amazing. The pandemic was phenomenal, except I really thought it would expose itself when people started going, hey, it's winter. I don't know anybody that's dead. Everything's the same except for the hoops they're making everybody jump through. My ex's son he's doing technical school. He's learning how to be an electrician in their basement on a camera in Massachusetts. I mean, this is ridiculous, dude. It's still going and going and going. And the only people that can stop it are the people that are just going along with it. Like it's all good. I don't get it.
It's the virtual world. It's the screens, man. It's all of the media. For instance, someone asked some Amish community, why aren't any of you guys getting sick? And they're like, because we don't have television.
I asked them if I could get them on video, and they were like, they basically gave me the Amish version of, really, dude, we're Amish. And I'm like, let me just get you. He said, this isn't real. None of this is real. He said, the people are getting it. He said they're getting infected through their televisions, which is why we don't have them. And I'm like, Do you remember when this first broke out? They kept saying they were floating all different ideas of how you could get COVID. You could get it eating breakfast cereal. You could get it patting your dog. Your cat might have it. And then they said you could get it through the eyes. And right then I was like, you keep watching television long enough, you'll develop some symptom. They'll come up with a symptom you've got.
That's what's keeping this thing alive. It is shaping the belief system, and it's shaping the behavior of its audience through fear and through false trust. They truly fear for their lives because they've been rendered insecure and incompetent. But at the same time, they trust through cognitive dissonance. They trust that this establishment, this state, this governmental body, this medical industry has their best interests at heart and will save them, and is actually doing all they can to keep them safe. Unfortunately, this is the mindset and perspective of the majority of people today, and it's sad. It really is. But man, there's really no escaping it. This truly is a mixture of the great falling away, and just people's eyes being closed and ears sealed up, right?
I agree. Someone just said James Corbett is on Alex Jones all the time. I didn't know that because I don't watch Alex Jones.
I didn't know that. I wouldn't call him a shill just based on his info. It's so on point.
It's phenomenal, but he does seem to be Teflon.
Yeah.
He doesn't code words. He says the same stuff I do.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know. Maybe it's because he's in Japan. I don't know why.
Yeah, and he does kind of he does do a little kind of this China thing, almost like creating a false, like a dialectic between us and China, which doesn't exist. That part always kind of gets me. We know very well China and Russia. There's none of that. They're all together.
None of that. It's all, they told us in the very beginning, we're all in this together. We're all in this together. They sure are. And it's an effective, they tried doing this before back in the old days with General Smedley Butler. They tried to take over. Corporations tried to take over. And if you look into that story, which I've run before, but that channel's gone. Every one of the people that approached General Smedley Butler, what a name, and said, hey, we got lots of money. It was during the bonus army drama that they were having. They had a bonus army. They were supposed to pay these guys extra money for doing dirty deeds for them, and they didn't. The guys surrounded the White House, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. These corporation heads all approached General Smedley Butler, and they wanted to take over the United States. And he went to the White House and told on them, and nothing happened to any of them because the government was afraid that these guys would crash the economy. Hey, these guys are trying to take over the world. They're trying to take over the United States. Yeah, but we don't want to ruffle any feathers, so we'll just let them slide. Well, all of their grandkids are now the exact same players that we're looking at right now. They figured out a pandemic was easier to do. It's amazing. It's amazing. So,
yeah, we're in a really interesting time. I would also, and I've said it before, this is probably one of the most, you should be honored if you're alive today living this, because I don't think there's been a moment as important as right now historically. This is, we are definitely moving somewhere that is major.
It's crazy, dude.
It is crazy.
Crazy watching this play out exactly like they told us it would play out. It's crazy that nobody's recognized the vehicle that they're using. It's crazy that people are still acting as though there's a pandemic when nobody's been affected, except for the poor people that got ventilators jammed down their throats in New York City when this first happened and ended up drowning to death, basically, because it was the wrong thing to do. It's just crazy. All of this is just crazy, man. This just continues, but we're coming up to a very exciting point in time.
Yes. Yes.
I'll tell you what, when Trump was picked to be the head of the United States, everybody picked Hillary. They were using gematria. They were using astrology. I made a video the day before and I said, if what they want is riots in the streets, Trump's going to win tomorrow. And he did. And they did. People were dressed up as vaginas for some reason. Rioting. How can you be afraid of a rioting vagina? I don't get it, but that's what happened. So, yeah, see, someone said he's not on Alex Jones. I don't watch him. So, yeah.
I've never heard of that either, yeah.
Yeah, I'm hip. Catherine Austin Fitz, she should, never mind. At any rate, what else we got here, man?
Well, Boris Johnson just put out a new lockdown in England, which is pretty crazy. That was they're
Well,
waking up over there, it seems.
well, that's why you got to lock it down. You got to lock it down. It's amazing. All these other unarmed countries are doing what you're supposed to be doing, or trying. From what we can see through the media, they're trying. In America, just they're waiting for a secret they're waiting for an alphabet letter that is supposedly hiding a dead president's dead son to save us from all this, through a guy who's literally orange and who's already said numerous times, I'm going to use the military to vaccinate everybody, who's already said numerous times, I'll take away the guns and then go to court afterwards, because I think it's just too much rigmarole to do with to that pesky old Constitution. It's crazy.
It is.
And people are just buying it because it's easier. But guess what? If the darkest winter comes to fruition, it's going to be horrible. Absolutely horrible. But living through this as trying to be a spectator, trying to not play the game as much as humanly possible, is very interesting, but it's also very saddening watching people texting and emailing, asking. It's like, I've told you everything I can.
Yeah, I know.
Who knows? I'm just telling you, they didn't go through all that. They're not going to let go of this. They got this. No matter what, they're going to keep pushing this forward one way or the other.
And a lot of people come out with, well, yeah, Trump might have said that, but he also said it is not going to be mandatory as far as vaccination is concerned. It's going to be optional. Well, that may be the case, and I think that will always be the case. But if you don't get it, you will be barred from
everything, just
everything.
Like a mask.
Yeah,
just like a mask. And they've already all these enormous technology, medical, big pharma corporations didn't come up with these digital passes and such to tell if you've been cleared for no reason. You know what I'm saying?
It's just not deadly enough. It's not, the infection rate isn't even reliable just because you can't honestly test for it. The testing isn't accurate. So all of the data is invalid. Yet they've created all of these new systems, all of these new technologies, and all of these new forms of regulation. How does any of it make sense? Clearly, there's something up with it, right? So even that alone should give you enough to understand you can't trust this guy. You just can't trust him.
Not at all. And I'm going to refer to the Corbett report Corbett report, whatever it is, because he did a great video that showed that this is nothing more than the continuation of the 9/11 rollout of security, but now just under the guise of health, biosecurity.
Biosecurity, yes. That's a future.
I'm looking for it right here. This video, of course, it's 33 minutes and 36 seconds long. Oh, James. He said that he would come on with me on November 3rd. And I'm like, I don't think I want to be in Boston on that particular date. But I'm going to leave this video linked in the description below. This is a good video if you haven't watched it, because it explains what they're doing. They're just rolling out more of the security that they didn't get to finish during 9/11. You know what I mean? It's called From Homeland Security to Biosecurity. So, at any rate. All right, Dave, you good?
I'm good, man. This was a great talk. Interesting times. A couple days from now, we're going to see a fascinating array of behavior and calamity. Hopefully things aren't as bad as I could possibly imagine. But interesting times, man.
You're keeping your hope level up there. I'm proud of you. You're holding it, man. You're holding it. I just can't. I just don't see anything good coming, because they've been telling us.
Yeah, nothing good coming, but it's just, how is it all going to work out? It's just prayer.
I'll tell you
that's all I'm doing is praying, man.
I'll tell you what, everyone should absolutely, without a doubt, pray and stay with it. Stay with it, because it takes away the fear end of it. My biggest thing is
absolutely.
I'm not dealing with fear. I'm dealing
No.
feeling bad for others who I just can't understand why they're
Yes.
falling for this, man.
Yes. Yes. That's my biggest issue right now is just dealing with friends, family, those that I see out in the world just struggling, little babies with masks over their faces. I'm talking like 1-year-old babies
Oh,
with
that just
masks. It's just
kills
it's
me, dude.
heartbreaking, man. It's so hard for me to deal with this.
At any rate, all right. People keep telling me to give other people a wrench. I'm on the wrong channel. I got too many. Yeah, whatever. Okay, stand by 1 sec. 1 sec. Mimi Praise, you're a moderator. Not that this channel will be up. This video. If they don't take this down, they ain't taking anything down anymore. Because before you came on, I was already saying all the secret words that they love so much, but it can't not. So
I mean, yeah, at this point, we just got to let it fly, man,
that's it. That's it. Let it fly. Hope for the best and pray.
and
Don't
pray.
listen to the people that are look. The Bible's listen. I know I didn't create me, and I know I can't create a person. They're trying to create people, but they still can't do it. There's a God, and there's a plan, and this is all part of it. And as a matter of fact, I'm fairly certain the Bible kind of warned us this was coming.
Just be thankful you're not the non-believer that has to deal with what's coming. Okay,
That's what I'm saying.
believe what you want to believe, man. At the end of all of this, let's see what you got to say.
That's it. And the offer I made you out in Wyoming still stands. It'll just be a longer drive now, but
right on, brother. I really appreciate that.
If it gets ugly, we need a smart guy with us. That's what we came up with. So, at any rate,
means a lot to me, man. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries, brother. Anytime. All right, guys. Richie from Boston, Days of Noah. Links to his channel, to the Corbett Report, and to pretty much everything will be in the description. And we are